Hello, everyone, and welcome to a brand new episode of JJ Talks. My name is Jonah Carden, and I am once again here with my co-host Josh. How you doing?
Well, you know what? I'm doing pretty great. Uh, you already saw it, but I got a new car because my truck decided to crap out, and after driving it this weekend, I'm pretty happy. Uh, and other than that, that's pretty much it. Ready to talk some football with you. Got some good news.
Yes, we do. We got lots of latest news to discuss with y'all. First thing that we'd like to bring up is Dalvin Cook, the running back for the Vikings. He is planning on having a holdout until he gets, quote, a reasonable contract extension. I kind of wanted to hand it to you with a question. What do you think of that situation? How much do you think Dalvin Cook is worth?
Well, I don't think it's top dollar because he has yet to play a single season all the way through, and last year was the most amount of games he's played in any given season, and he's looking to capitalize after that performance. But even though uh, he hasn't played a full season, I still think he'll get a decent contract. We'll see. They still have Alexander Madison behind them, who proved to be a pretty good number two whenever he wasn't available at the end of last year. So I'm thinking anywhere between like the fifth or fourth highest paid RB as far as where I would go. Uh, it does seem like Minnesota and Dalvin are on good terms with each other, so I'm pretty sure they'll work out a deal.
Yeah, I agree. And it also helps that Dalvin Cook is a very essential part of that offense. It seems that the Vikings want to focus on a running attack with kind of going off of play action. And I think he fits that very well. He can also catch it out of the backfield. And we could see what he can do when he's healthy. So it'll be nice for him to, accumulate more healthy seasons going forward. But I think he's a very talented back, and I think he'll make his money. The thing that's a struggle, though, is, of course, we've had this discussion, how do you pay running backs and how much do you pay them? But I don't think he's going to get, Christian McCaffrey money, but I think he'll make a good amount of money.
Yeah, and after the Vikings had like offloaded, especially to Stephon Diggs, I think they've made room to have the viability to end up paying Dalvin Cook. Obviously, not like the number one contract for a running back, but I think it's there for them, and I think it'd be a good deal for them.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. So
Well,
the
after
next,
that, we have another contract extension. Well, actually, one that happened. The full details didn't come out yet, but the 49ers head coach, Kyle Shanahan, has been extended to 2025. So, what do you think about that?
I mean, I think it's good for both sides. Shanahan just took him to the Super Bowl, choked another lead, but we're not going to discuss that just yet. Um,
History repeats, my friend.
of course, it had
So
to.
satisfying.
Yeah, but I think he did a very masterful job, honestly, last year, utilizing the running game as he did. I think the 49ers have an extremely talented roster from top to bottom. I think they are probably the favorites in the National League to go back to the Super Bowl. I think you could see possibly a progression of Jimmy G getting better as a passer. I think with their first round picks, Javon Kinlaw and the receiver, whose name I can't think of off the top of my head.
Ayuk.
Yes, Brandon Ayuk. I think both those will be able to contribute right away. And I just think he's done a very nice job since he's been there. I think a lot of us expected them to have a good offense, and their running game is pretty much the foundation of their offense, but it was good. I don't think many expected the 49ers defense to be as elite as it was. And I think that's a credit to him being able to build up that roster with John Lynch. So I think he has earned this extension, and I think 49er faithful are expecting hopefully one, if not more, Super Bowls between now and 2025. So we'll see how he does. So the last thing that we want to talk about, and this is in very recent news, very important news. Word came out that the Cowboys players, and I believe Texans players as well, um, were struck by COVID-19. One of these is Ezekiel Elliott. So we just kind of want to give our thoughts and prayers to them. We hope they recover quickly. Hopefully it doesn't spread to even more people. Obviously, this is a thing that with people going back to athletic facilities and a lot of people coming back together, specifically with football teams, this is a thing that could possibly happen.
Mhm.
But hopefully hopefully they get healed quick. Hopefully it's not anything long lasting. Anything you'd like to say on
Yeah,
that?
and this comes after Texas opened up 3 days ago to 75% capability. So not shortly after, and we're already seeing a rise. So hopefully other states won't repeat this.
Yeah, it's tough because a lot of teams want to get back into the groove of getting ready to get their bodies warmed back up, especially players like the rookies that haven't even been able to really be with a team just yet. And they want to be able to compete with people. They want to learn the playbook. They want to get back in shape and get ready. But there's still this giant pandemic going on, which just makes it a lot harder to be able to do. So hopefully, everyone else is staying healthy. Hopefully there's not many more spikes. Hopefully they can still be productive while keeping, distancing the proper way. But yeah, so hopefully they heal quick. All our thoughts and prayers with them.
Yeah, and at the time of this recording, Zeke's the only one that's confirmed to have it. It's just kind of rumors that Cowboys and Texans are infected with COVID.
Yeah. Hopefully there's not much more after that. But moving forward from our news, that's all the news we got for you today. And now we're going to go into our very early predictions going into the NFC East. And we'd like to start off with the New York Giants, a team that, last year made absolute headlines when they took with the number 6 overall pick, Daniel Jones. A lot of Giants fans were furious. People were questioning it. And before we go into kind of their additions, I kind of want to ask you, what did you make of Daniel Jones's rookie year?
I got to be honest. I wasn't too high on the pick at all because I think we all agree that they could have gotten him where they were, but not as bad as I thought. Your typical issue was turnovers, which was expected, and he did have a major fumbling issue. He was on pace for 23 fumbles if he had played a full 16 game
Whoa.
season. Yeah, I think that would have broken a record. But I mean, overall, even given that fumbling issue, I think that's kind of expected, even though that's a high rate. He performed better than what I expected.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. And I found it funny whenever he got the nickname Danny Dimes, especially after that Buccaneers game where he went off. But I
It's pretty
think,
easy to go off on the Tampa Bay secondary.
yeah, hopefully that can continue this upcoming year. But he showed very nice mobility. He showed arm talent, and at times his decision making was good. Obviously, he's still a rookie, so he had his flaws. But I think he performed better than expected to the majority of the NFL. And I think there's a very big possibility you could see another jump from him. And, I'm honestly kind of rooting for him because I can only imagine how much grief this guy got when he got picked. And it'd be nice to see him succeed a little bit. I mean, coming out, I did not have him going nearly that high, but he kind of proved me wrong a little bit. I expected it to be extremely bad, and he performed decently. So, we'll see where he goes from there.
And like just the blowback from the pick itself, but just the fact that he looks so identical to Eli Manning, it's crazy.
Oh yeah, I mean, he came from the whole Manning bloodline basically. I mean, he went through the Manning passing camp, I think. Just like he worked with the Mannings. It was just like a match made in heaven, it seemed. So
But in
outside
this
of
year's draft, they decided to take a tackle to hopefully help with Daniel Jones' fumbling issue,
yeah, they took
and they
Andrew
get the Georgia
Thomas.
tackle. Yeah, sorry.
Very good. They took Andrew Thomas with the early pick, I believe number 4. Some people argued, where the tackles were in terms of their ranking, especially the top 3 or 4. But I think a lot of people agreed this is a very safe pick, a very good pick. I think Andrew Thomas will be a fine tackle. They also took in the second round Xavier McKinney. Some people thought he would be a late first rounder, and they got him in the second. I think that's a good pickup. And then later on, they got
Mhm.
Matt Pert, another offensive lineman. And I think many would agree. I'm sure you'll agree as well. You got to start with the O line. If you want your quarterback to succeed, they have to have a good O-line in front of them that helps keep the quarterback upright and the running game working for Saquon Barkley. I think that was the focus, and I think they did well with those two picks. So I want to hop it to you for any other additions you may think you liked.
Well, going off of those picks, it was clear that they really wanted to work on defense and O line, and not just with the picks, but they signed James Bradbury, the corner from Carolina, to a 3-year, $32 million deal with incentives up to 45. They put Leonard Williams on the franchise tag to see what he's got, and then on the offensive side, Deion Lewis to a 1-year deal, and I think that's a part of the Joe Judge signing as the head coach. Admittedly, not too happy with that signing. It's for 8 years, and he was just an assistant coach with the Patriots. There was plenty of other coaching options they could have got. It's just so confusing. The draft itself was pretty good. I do like the offseason free agents they got. What really concerns me is Joe Judge. And aside from that, as far as like player wise, what about the wide receivers? With the emergence of Darius Slayton, we'll see if that continues. But Sterling Shepard can't stay healthy. Golden Tate is old and couldn't stay healthy. And Evan Ingram is not that old at all, but he has yet to play a full season yet. And he was a high capital draft pick a couple years ago. Obviously, Saquon is working now, but even then, he had a high ankle sprain last year, which sat him out for a couple of games. So we'll see what happens. What do you think about those free agent signings?
I'm with you on a lot of those that you stated. Another sign they made that I understood it for the need, but I didn't like the contract was Blake Martinez from the Packers. They signed him to a 3-year, about $30 million deal. And Martinez is a guy that reminds me a lot of Paul Warlow from many years ago. He'll rack up the tackles, but he's not exactly the greatest in coverage. And he's just not that good of a linebacker. And they needed one because Alec Ogletree is gone. But I don't know. I just didn't like. I don't think he's a $10 million a year linebacker. So that one question was questionable to me. One guy that they lost, Marcus Golden, a guy that ever since he came out of college and went into the NFL, struggled with injuries, never really lived up to the hype. And last year, I think he ended up with double-digit sacks, and he currently remains unsigned. I don't expect him to go back to the Giants. I mean, I didn't initially, but now that he's still unsigned, you never know. But like their linebacking core, I find very questionable. I feel like they could have addressed that a little bit more than they did. And that's kind of my question entirely with the Giants at this point is just their defense. Is their defense going to be able to take that next step? Because the defense was atrocious last year. And they're playing in a division, with the Eagles and the Cowboys. So you need at least a serviceable defense. And when your defense is worse than the Falcons, that's bad.
Yeah,
So
and like you signed Xavier McKinney and James Bradbury, but like you said with the whole linebacking situation, you don't have anyone up front to get pressure on the quarterback.
right. And like you said earlier, they franchise tag Leonard Williams, but he's never really lived up to the draft price that he was when he came out of college from USC. So I don't know. They've got pieces there on the defensive line, but there's not that much there. So I don't know. And I'm with you on the Joe Judge coaching hire. I was questionable with that as well. But I will also openly admit that I was also not very big on Matt LaFleur being hired by the Packers. And despite the fact that they won a lot of one possession games, they still ended up 13-3 and got all the way to the NFC Championship. So there's a possibility Joe Judge could turn this thing around. But the difference that I see it is I don't think the Giants have near as much talent as the Packers did. So I don't expect this team to end up very good, whether it be improvement-wise or on the record. So what do you think?
What gets me is the length of the contract. Like this guy isn't proven at all. He was just an assistant coach. I mean, didn't we see this last year with Freddie Kitchens? He was just a quarterback coach, and he happened to step in at the right time and just be in the right place.
Yep.
Uh, I that worries me a lot. I do like the draft. Free agent signings were nice, and Daniel Jones wasn't as bad as anyone expected, which is like it kind of says something itself. I mean, we're not saying he's good by any means. We're just saying that he definitely performed better than our expectations. But then you have all these pieces together that look like they're coming together, and then you sign a guy who just has absolutely no experience with bringing guys together. And then obviously they didn't know about this whole situation with the COVID, but you add that on top of this, a new head coach who probably even hasn't sat together his whole team in a room. It is really concerning, and I just don't have high hopes for that at all.
Yeah, I'm with you. And he could prove us wrong, but I'm just if I'm a Giants fan, I'm not going into the season with very high expectations. That's all I'm saying.
But still be happy that you have a handful of good pieces now. I mean, it really does look like the franchise is on the turn, and they just need a little push somewhere. Don't know where yet, but we'll see.
Yes, I agree with you. Another team that I think I don't know if I would want to necessarily say have a turnaround, but could definitely have a big bounce back. I mean, last year they went to the playoffs. They actually won the division. We're talking about the Philadelphia Eagles, but they were so injury riddled that I don't think the Eagles ever came close to the potential they could have had. And the Eagles are a team that I actually had last year winning the division, but I did not expect all their receivers to go out and they have them to sign practice squad players and past quarterbacks having to play receiver and become the top receiver. And their defense getting absolutely ravaged, specifically in the secondary. I mean, it was just like a bloodbath with that team.
It was brutal.
It was very brutal, and it was hard to watch. But I gotta give a guy credit, and that guy is Carson Wentz. I know a lot of people like to bash him, for him not being that's kind of the thing that's very funny. Up until the Seattle playoff game, all these people got hurt, and Carson Wentz happens to be the one guy that's healthy for the entire regular season. Like, what are the odds of that?
I don't
But
think any of us could have predicted it. I think we both had them winning the division last year, but the fashion that it was done, oh my god! And I think that shut us both up about Carson Wentz.
yes, I agree. And I openly, since he came out of college, I liked his athleticism. I liked his build. I liked his arm talent. But everyone that was saying that he was this elite quarterback for the past 3 years, I just didn't agree. He had one really good season where I think if he would have stayed healthy, and this is a Super Bowl year, he would have won the MVP. Obviously, he got hurt. Then next year, he was hurt. In this upcoming year, I had them winning the division because of the talent on that roster, but I didn't think it would be because of Carson Wentz. And, you know, now looking back on it, it was entirely because of Carson Wentz. That team he put on his back with all the injuries, and he was able to turn this practice squad of a team, basically, into a 9-7 playoff bound team. And I have to give him credit for that.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more there. Definitely was a doubter of Carson Wentz and health being an issue, being one of those things. But when you're able to put together what you did last season and stand tall, even after the questions of whether or not you were better than Nick Foles or not, every hater shouldn't have anything to say about you now, unless you're the Cowboys fans.
Or
But
Skip Bayless.
and I absolutely hate the Eagles personally. This is my least favorite team in NFL. Just from being a Falcons fans and seeing how much they've spoiled our playoff hopes in recent memory and in the past. But I got to give credit where credit is due. Carson, you proved us wrong. You're the man, and your health is an issue. And I think the drafting Jalen Hurts and where they did, maybe it solves it. I get it. I like it. I think it makes more sense than Green Bay taking Jordan Love. Props to you, man. Good job for proving us wrong.
Yeah, I kind of want to bounce off what you just said. I found it very funny how, Doug Peterson, you're the star quarterback who you just paid a bunch of money, let's let that be known. Like over, I think like 120, 125 million dollars, something like that.
Sounds
Lots
about
and
right.
lots of money. Doug Peterson is over here like, all right, we're going to reward Carson Wentz. First round, you get Jalen Reagor. And personally, this is just being me, I didn't watch a bunch of TCU football. I had to look a little bit up more of Jalen Reagor than I did. He was not the best receiver on the board for me at the time of that pick. I had Justin Jefferson above him. I also had Denzel Mims above him. But I looked up Jalen Reagor, and he's basically a Deshaun Jackson clone, more or less. He is.
So when he goes out in first week, he'll have a replacement.
Of course. Um, he's fast. He's shifty. He's a big play threat. He kind of can drop the ball a little bit, but I mean, if you think Deshaun Jackson, that's pretty much Jalen Reagor. So I was like, you know what? Okay, that's fine. But then the second round comes, and I want everyone to note, Josh is a Georgia fan. I'm an Alabama fan. I love Jalen Hurts. I loved what he did for the University of Alabama. Going through what he went through. When he went to Oklahoma, I was rooting for him. I'm glad they were able to get to the playoffs. Now, granted, they got absolutely manslaughtered by LSU, but he got him there. So props to him. But you drafted Jalen Hurts in the second round. Now, I understand the injury concerns with Carson Wentz. I really do. But a second round pick on a backup quarterback does not make that much sense to me. I did think that they should go into the draft and get a quarterback because I don't think they really got any quarterback of note in free agency as a backup. So I understood getting one in the draft at some point. But what I didn't understand is getting one in the second round. And then when Doug Peterson said, one, that they're a quarterback factory, which, okay, sure, why? Oh, whatever.
I mean,
But
it's kind of a carousel, that backup position, I guess.
I guess, but like, still second round though. But anyway, that's whatever. But then to go on that to say that they kind of expect, and the word's going around that they want to use Jalen Hurts like Taysom Hill.
All right.
Taysom Hill was an undrafted free agent. He wasn't even drafted. Why are you using a second round pick, such high capital, for a backup quarterback? And I think he can be used in that role because Jalen Hurts is fast. He's strong. Even at Alabama, they had him in the slot, and he caught passes out the backfield, which was crazy. So they used him in a variety of ways when Tua was there. But still, a second round pick, I think they could have gone elsewhere with that. I think they could have gone linebacker. There were a lot of good linebacker prospects at that point. Heck, they could have gone another receiver if they really wanted to.
Yeah.
But, I mean, that's the one thing with the draft that I just did not like. They also got Kayvon Wallace late, which I think was a very nice pick, the safety from Clemson. But I don't know. The Jalen Hurts pick, to me, it was very questionable. Not so much that they drafted him, but just that they drafted him in the second round.
Well, do you think Hurts would have followed them on their next pick? He probably wouldn't have.
I mean, I agree he probably wouldn't have. But it's just the fact of picking up a quarterback in the second round. I think that was too high of a price to pay. I would not have gotten one until probably the fourth would probably be when I would have gotten one. And the fact that they spent a second round pick on Hurts makes me think that they're truly concerned about Carson's injury concerns, which is a concern, but I don't know. I kind of think it's a slap in the face to Carson, especially after what he just did to you, to get you to the playoffs. So it's I get drafting a quarterback. I do, just not in the second round.
Well, we got Jalen Hurts and Jalen Reagor covered. How about they signed Jalen Mills to a one-year deal to return, and the word is that he's expected to play some safety. He's a defensive back. What do you think about that?
I think I actually have two guys, Jalen Mills and also Will Parks. I think both of them honestly would be fine additions. I think they're kind of underrated signings. Because I think the safety position with the departure of Malcolm Jenkins going to the Saints, I think it's a hole there, and I think they might be going in the idea of, we're going to bring these two guys in, let them battle it out, and whoever wins in camp wins the job. So, I mean, I think they're fine. I think they're low risk, high reward contracts. I have nothing against it.
They also signed Ronnie McLeod to a 2-year deal, and he rebounded off a knee injury from 2018, and he played pretty well. And then I think the Eagles might have the most underrated front going into this next season. They get Javon Hargrove from Pittsburgh, and it's going to form a trio of him, Malik Jackson, and Fletcher Cox. Can you get any better than that?
I'm with you. I love that signing. I think Hargrave and Fletcher Cox paired together is going to be awesome. And I think with their linebacker question marks, I think that front four is going to help with that a lot. So, yeah, I'm with you. I think it's a very underrated signing, but I think it's a very, very smart signing by that front office.
It is kind of a little bit of penny, 3 years at $39 million, but I think it's pretty well spent.
Yeah, the one question I do have is a few of they lost some good people in free agency. They lost the offensive lineman Vaitai. Not even going to try to pronounce his first name. They lost him. They lost Malcolm Jenkins, as I said earlier. Ronald Darby's gone now. Nelson Aguilar's gone, but I don't think that's a big deal.
Big deal.
Nigel Bradham, middle linebacker, he's gone. And then Jason Peters, Vinny Curry, and Timmy Jernigan all left unsigned. So I think the offensive line is going to be an interesting thing to note as we get into the season. How good are they really? Especially with a quarterback that has been injured a lot, you're going to want to try to keep him upright, as upright as possible. So that's probably my biggest question. And really, just in a general sense, can, the Cowboys obviously had a great offseason as well. We'll talk about them in a little bit. But can a healthy Eagles team, a fully healthy Eagles team, be able to remain on top of the NFC East?
I think so. And there is one more. It's not a signing, it's a trade, but they get Darius Slay from the Detroit Lions. What a great steal that is. I mean, I know Detroit was trying to get rid of him, but I think just like Arizona and the Houston trade, I think they could have gotten more from him.
Oh, yeah, I'm with you. I think Darius Slay is a fantastic corner. Last year, he didn't have the best year, but again, he was on a horrific Lions team. I think you can easily.
He probably honestly didn't even care.
Yeah, I'm with you. And obviously, he didn't have the best relationship with Matt Patricia in the first place. So I think that plays a factor in how he played. But I think if you look at Darius Slay over the years, you can make an easy argument. He is a top 10 and at times top 5 corner in this league.
Without a doubt.
So I think you got a prime CB1 for that group, that secondary that has struggled. And I think when you pair that with another underrated signing to me, Nickel Roby-Coleman, I think those two will be a fine CB1, CB2, along with some other corners that they have that they didn't lose. But I think Darius Slay is going to be able to come in and contribute right away, be a leader for that room. And also, while we're on the topic of trades, they also made a trade to get Marquise Goodwin from the 49ers. I think – oh, sorry, go ahead.
It's all right, I guess. I mean, when you have one of the best offensive minds in the league on the 49ers and he doesn't want a receiver, it kind of tells me something, but go ahead.
I honestly really liked it for the simple fact of it is a very low-risk, high-reward move because the trade was swapping 6th-round picks. That was it. They didn't even lose a pick. They just went down in the draft, but they still had a 6th-round pick. So I think, again, I don't remember the last time that Marquise Goodwin has even had a fully healthy season. And I think if you're the Eagles, you're not expecting him to. What you're hoping for is he can get you, if there's 16, I think 17 games now with the added game, if he can get you 11 to 12 games and be able to be able to contribute and then be able to contribute in the playoffs, I think you take that.
That's the
I
thing with
think,
the Eagles receivers. If you add them all together with the games that they play, they make one full receiver.
yeah, but I mean, I don't know. I like Marquise Goodwin. I think when he's healthy, he is dynamic. But again, he's almost never healthy. So I understand why the 49ers wanted to get rid of him. And I think on the Eagles side, if all they want to do was trade 6-round picks, I think you take it. You take a chance. You try to give Carson Wentz another weapon. So now you got Jalen Rager, Marquise Goodwin, Deshaun Jackson if he's healthy, and then Alshon Jeffrey, depending on how that situation goes. But I think a trio of Alshon, Rager, and Marquise Goodwin, I think that's a solid trio to have.
And when they all come together, they make one receiver. It's pretty great, right? I think. Okay, so we obviously believe that the defense is an underrated part of the Eagles team. The reason why I'm so high on them, aside from all the signings and stuff, is they're the only team in the NFC East turning their head coach. What do you see at Dallas? Mike McCarthy, Giants, Joe Judge, Redskins, Ron Rivera. All three of these teams are not returning the same head coach as they had in 2019. And with this whole offseason and not having the full time to prepare, that gives the Eagles a huge edge in the division.
That's a very, very good point because this offseason, as much as we've talked about the rookies struggling, you got to think all these new head coaches are going to be struggling too with their new teams not being able to really instill their philosophy right away. So, I mean, I'm with you. All these three teams with these new coaches, they're kind of behind the eight ball a little bit. While the Eagles, same philosophy. It's really just getting these rookies and new free agents up to speed. But Doug Peterson's scheme, everyone really knows it already, so they'll be able to go and hit the ground rolling.
Mm-hmm. And I think that really played a part into deciding what my, at least now, expectations are for the Eagles and their record. Because this division is really ugly, and not in the sense that they're like bad or like the worst of the league, but it's an actual fight between these teams to win a division, and that alone gives them just a huge edge, like I already said.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I think most can agree that the team that's going to be the main, opponent to winning this division is the Dallas Cowboys. And I got to say, the Cowboys had what I would say is a phenomenal offseason, if not the best. I mean, the additions that they were able to make through the free agency and the draft was kind of eye-popping. So just going through a few of them, they got Gerald McCoy and Dontari Poe from the Buccaneers, from the Panthers. And those are two, I think, just plug-and-play defensive tackles for that line. They got, who I think is a very underrated signing, Greg Zuerlein. I think they're hoping their kicker problems are finally over. They also were able to get HaHa Clinton-Dix to fix the safety situation with the departure of Jeff Heath. They, as we stated in one of our earlier episodes, Andy Dalton for the whole possibility of Dak Prescott not playing. We'll see how that goes. They also got Aldon Smith, the pass rusher from many years ago. If he is eligible to play and is able to step in, it'll be very interesting to see how much of a role he plays, but it's a very low-risk, high-reward signing, so we'll see how that goes.
His suspension got uplifted, right?
Say it again?
His suspension got uplifted, right?
I believe so.
So he's good to go then, right?
Yeah, I'm just interested to see, because he hasn't played football since, 2016, 2015. So how much in shape is he, and how much of an impact is he going to make automatically? If he's able to step in and be able to play football right away, then great. If he starts playing, and again, we don't have a really clear off season. So if he doesn't make it, contribute right away, I would highly expect him to probably get cut for somebody else. But, we'll see. Again, low risk, high reward.
Mm-hmm.
And then Oh my goodness, their freaking draft.
Just hand it. Just in a nice little basket. Here you go, Cowboys. Here you go, Jerry Jones. Here's your little nice little draft right here, graded A+. It's all
Their
right here for you. You don't need to make any kind of moves at all. Just we'll take care of it. Here it is.
their draft reminded me of that guy in a fantasy draft who doesn't even play. He just lets it auto draft for them, and all the good players just fall to them. It was so stupid. So first off, CeeDee Lamb decides to fall in their laps at 17 when wide receiver, I think most would argue, was not a top need. But you got Cooper there, you got Gallup there. CeeDee Lamb just falls to you. It's kind of like a few years ago when Ridley fell to the Falcons. You got to take him. He's probably the best player available on your board. So they get him. Then the second round, I thought their top need was corner with the departure of Byron Jones. So yeah, let's just try Trayvon Diggs, a late first round graded pick. He's just going to fall in your laps. Perfectly fitting for, I mean, Trayvon Diggs was expected to be their first round pick. He ends up as their second. So sure. And then Neville Gallimore, a guy with the second round grade, becomes their third round pick. And then, as most know, Travis Frederick, their starting center, retired. So yeah, let's just let one of the top tier centers. I think I had him graded as my fourth or fifth best center. Yeah, Tyler Baez is just gonna fall in your lap to fix that gaping hole. I was sitting watching the draft and I was like, how in the world is everything just lining up so freaking perfectly for them? It's not fair. So yeah, sorry. That's me just I had to rant a little bit because yeah. Is there anything else about the draft you'd like to say?
I think you really said everything that was needed to be said. The only other thing I had was that they re-signed Anthony Brown after losing Byron Jones. So not only did they have Anthony Brown, but they had Trayvon Diggs. And what was one of the best signings of the offseason was Gerald McCoy. And it's not very often that you get a defensive tackle on the market who has 5 sacks for every season the past 8 seasons. So they also re-signed Amari Cooper and Blake Jarwin. So Dak has plenty of tools around him to perform and give the Cowboys the edge. I think Travis Frederick retiring, even though they did maybe replace him in the draft, I think that hinders them greatly. As he was facing an autoimmune disease problem, and as soon as he was knocked out, Dak and Zeke's numbers deteriorated quickly. Like I said, they did address it in the draft. Maybe we'll see how it plays out. I really think they just took CeeDee Lamb just so that the Eagles couldn't get him. I really think that's what happened. Like Jerry was just sitting on his boat, and you could see before he made the pick, he had the biggest smile on his face, like he knew exactly what he was doing.
Yeah.
And given all that, they did lose Robert Quinn, which is replaced by Gerald McCoy and Dontari Poe. But as I said before, Mike McCarthy is the new head coach. I honestly don't know what to expect from a Mike McCarthy offense after having a little offseason for him. And I just don't know how that's going to transfer to Dak, to be honest. I don't think Mike McCarthy's offense really suits Dak unless he decides to, during this whole off time, he decided to change things up. So that would be the biggest question for me entering the season for the Cowboys is how is Mike McCarthy going to fit into the Cowboys?
Yeah, I agree. And going off of what you said about his type of offense, I think their offensive coordinator is still going to be the play caller, but I do expect McCarthy to still instill his game plan and his offensive philosophy. And if we look back at the years where he was with the Packers, we saw a whole lot of Aaron Rodgers, and that was pretty much it. It was a ton of passing, and Aaron Rodgers was pretty much carrying that team on his back. And there was like a running game that was basically non-existent. And I think with Prescott and Zeke, you've almost got to be the exact opposite. I'm sorry.
Right?
I don't think Dak Prescott can carry a team on his back passing the ball. And yes, he's got the offensive weapons in terms of the receivers and the tight end, but I just don't think him as a quarterback can do that. And especially when you've got your $90 million man in the backfield, you got to go through him, I think. So I think he's going to have to adjust, which granted, he did not coach for a year, and he said that he learned a lot just studying the game. So maybe his philosophy is different. We'll have to see, obviously, when it gets on the field. But yeah, I'm with you. I think McCarthy, the question is, will it bring better results? A lot of people were blaming Jason Garrett for the falters of this Cowboys team, who many believe has the talent, but they just could never put it together. So is the answer a new head coach? Is the answer Mike McCarthy? Because I think they've got the talent, but the question is, can they finally put it all together instead of just ending up 8-8 over and over again, it seems.
I guess we'll see, but I guess really the last thing we have to talk about with the Cowboys is the franchise tag on Dak. They have until July 15th to reach that agreement or give him a new deal. It's just a matter of time. It seems like every week there's a new report being leaked, oddly enough, from Dallas saying, hey, they're trying to paint Dak as a bad guy. Like, hey, we gave him this deal for this amount of money, and he won't take it because he wants more. He's a bad guy. That's what it seems like.
Yeah, it seems just a very negative negotiation tactic they're attempting to do. And frankly, I think every day that passes, the less likely I feel that a deal is going to really get done, at least in good faith. So, I mean, we'll see. I mean, we've obviously talked about how much we think that Dak Prescott is worth. I think the Cowboys know how much they think he's worth, and Dak Prescott has this astronomical number that he thinks he's worth, if all reports are correct. So, yeah, they have until July 15th. But if I'm sitting here today, I mean, the first time we recorded the episode talking about the contract, I thought they'd make a deal done. But as I'm sitting here now, June 15th, I mean, they got a month from today. A lot of things can change, but I don't see it happening.
And we have all this free time. Coaches are now formal the plan for the year. This is not happening in Dallas right now. If anything, Mike McCarthy is whispering into Andy Dalton's sweet little ear of everything that he wants to do, and Dak is not getting any of it. So even if he does reach an agreement with Dallas, they're already set back because they haven't prepared and an already shortened offseason where these teams are just now being able to prepare for next year. And you have a new head coach who's going to have a different mindset than Jason Garrett did. It's even with all these nice little pieces that you've added, it's not going to mix very well.
Yeah, that's kind of what the Cowboys feel like they are. They're a giant puzzle, and they just have not been able to put all the pieces together right. It's like they're a square puzzle piece, and they're trying to fit into a round hole, and it's just not working.
Hey, if you try hard enough, sometimes it does.
I guess.
You just need a hammer.
Yeah, Jerry Jones just needs to get a giant hammer, just keep nailing the Cowboys in place until it finally fits.
Dak, sign the contract. That's what's going on right now. Well, then last but not least, or just very much least, because they're the most boring team to talk about in the NFL right now, will be the Washington Redskins. I mean, how just boring can you get? Like even the Browns, even though they sucked for so long, they were the lovable little losers. Everyone liked the Browns. It was just a fun little team. It was like, oh, look at them trying.
Little losers.
Yeah. They were always the underdog. They had the dog pound. They had the loyal fan base. It was all fun and all, right? And then you just had the Redskins, who equally suck, but they're just not fun at all. That's just where talent goes, just to dry up. If you go to Washington, you lose all your talent. Dan Snyder just sucks it up, and he puts it right back into Nickelodeon. But with that being said, there is a couple of nice little pieces going around that hopefully don't get wasted here in Washington. Most notably, the Chase Young pick, number 2 overall, the defensive end. What more is there to say about this guy? Maybe we're crowning him too early, maybe, but from what we can tell, he's a transformative talent. Hopefully, it doesn't go to waste. The one thing that Washington does have is a solid defense, and maybe with adding Chase Young, it will become great. Now, they also added they also signed Kyle Allen to be in the quarterback battle with Dwayne Haskins, and he comes over probably through knowing Ron Rivera, who they signed as the head coach. I mean, okay, Kyle Allen, quarterback battle with Dwayne Haskins. It's not a fun battle, I guess. Like, okay, cool. Maybe Dwayne improves. Maybe not. We'll see. If anything, I do believe in Ron Rivera, and maybe they could get some consistency going on. But the best piece overall on this Washington team is Terry McLaurin. What a what a surprise last year. Who expected one of the best receivers to come out of the draft last year to have been the one that went to Washington, Terry McLaurin? And even with Case Keenum and Dwayne Haskins just sucking really bad and just being everything like Washington, Terry McLaurin, you went through the rough. Good job, man. I hope it continues for your career. And really the only other thing I would have to add was that this might be the deepest running back depth team. Like, cool. You have Adrian Peterson, an age quarterback, who's still performing pretty well at his age. I'll give him that. But then you have Darius Guice, who was a highly sought-after running back in the draft that he came in. But has he played more than 4 games in this entire career so far? What do you expect from that? Peyton Barber, okay, cool. J.D. McKissick, Now, the one to note who is quoted from Ron Rivera to be the next CMC is Antonio Gibson. So with that, I'll hand it off to you.
Yeah, Antonio Gibson they picked up in the draft this past year. I think he's fine. The next CMC, no, sorry. I think he'll be fine. I agree with you. I think they've got a lot of running back depth, but I don't think that's going to fix this atrocious offense. I'm with this. Okay, so if I'm going through what I think were their big additions, obviously you stated Chase Young. Number 1 on most people's boards, just overall in the draft. Supposed to be a fantastic talent. We'll see how it goes. And I'm with you on the defense. I think more specifically, though, it's the defensive line. I mean, when you add up Jonathan Allen, Daron Payne, Matt Ioannidis, Chase Young now, Ryan Kerrigan, they have just got so many defensive line pieces that they should be able to stop the run and rush the passer. For the most part, I would hope, with all those pieces. But then you look at everything else, and it's just a lot of nothing. I mean, they picked up Kendall Fuller, who I think is a good corner, but They also got Thomas Davis, the linebacker. Aging linebacker, I think he's more there for a veteran presence than anything. I don't know how much he's actually going to play. They got Ronald Darby from the Eagles. So, I mean, they improved their cornerback group, which is nice. In terms of their losses, they lost Eric Flowers, offensive lineman. Josh Norman is gone. I think he's re-signed somewhere, but I can't think of where it is off the top of my head. They lost Jordan Reed, more so just because of all the concussion issues and injuries he's had.
I mean, was he going to play more than 2 games anyways?
Probably not. Trent Williams was traded in the draft to the 49ers. I don't think they got nearly as much in that trade as they were expecting, but now officially he is gone.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, they improved their defense fine, which I think most would agree their defense was a fine defense as it was. I think most people would agree the issue was the offense. And They did not much with it. I mean,
Nothing
in the
changed.
yeah, as you noted, Antonio Gibson was drafted in the draft, but it's just a running back. They picked up the receiver Antonio Gandy Golden from Liberty. I mean, okay. Um, they got some offensive linemen in the draft, but outside of Terry McLaurin, there's really no playmakers at the receiver position right now. And Dwayne Haskins, I'm sorry, but he had a very bad rookie year.
Guess what? He's just not that good.
See, I'm gonna hold off on saying he's not good because I can't judge rookies on their first year. So maybe Haskins is just gonna take a little longer. And it doesn't help that he's not exactly on the most talented team anyways. But I don't have much hope for him going forward based off of what I saw. At the very minimum, as we stated with Daniel Jones, at least we saw a lot of positives. Obviously, there were rookie negatives, but you could see the arm talent, you could see the mobility. With Dwayne Haskins, I didn't see much of anything. I think he had like one or two good games, but that was it. So with the Redskins, I mean, I agree with you. I really like Ron Rivera. I think he's a very excellent coach. And if anybody can fix this roster and fix this team, I think he can. But right now, I I don't have much hope for the Washington Redskins. I have them ending up as one of the worst teams in the league this year. They didn't do much on offense. They fixed their defense a little bit, but I don't think it's going to be enough to compensate how bad that offense is projected to be. So, yeah, Redskins bottom of the barrel this year. I'm sorry.
Yeah, this is definitely the team that will be vying for that number one position in the draft next year. And I don't think they're really close to turning it around within the next 2 or 3 years, to be honest. Even though I do like Ron Rivera, but he's taken on a hell of a job, that's for sure.
Yeah,
They did also sign Jack Del Rio as their defensive coordinator. So even though we didn't have that good defense last year, new scheme this year. So for all we know, all that promise that we saw on the defensive side last year and Chase Young, maybe it doesn't even come to fruition.
I actually got a question for you. So if we go forward this upcoming year, and let's say we see Dwayne Haskins with like no improvement, obviously Ron Rivera just came in. Could we see them going quarterback early in the draft next year?
I think so. Without a doubt, I think there's no question with that. If Dwayne Haskins does not improve by any means, uh, Ron Rivera wasn't a part of that whole team or decision to get Dwayne, and there wouldn't be any issue moving off of him.
Yeah, it would be very interesting to see them bring in a quarterback and have another like quarterback duel there because you obviously referenced Kyle Allen going over there. I don't expect Kyle Allen to win the job by any means, but I do expect there to be some type of competition. And if he doesn't do good, I could expect another competition with a potential quarterback next year, maybe a Trevor Lawrence, possibly, depending on how high that draft pick ends up being.
Maybe. You know what? It's a shame because I do like the Redskins uniforms. So I'll just go ahead and say that. It'd be nice if like a good team was around some good uniforms, right? That's always fun.
Yeah, especially with all these new uniforms popping up.
And you're in the same division as the Eagles and the Cowboys, who have some of the best uniforms in the league.
Yeah. So I want to bring up another, quarterback, not so much a quarterback competition, but a quarterback battle, so to speak.
All right.
So two quarterbacks have been heavily debated ever since they got drafted, and they're both in this division, Carson Wentz and Dak Prescott. And looking at both these quarterbacks, you've got Carson Wentz, who in his 4 years, he has had 2 seasons where he's fully healthy. This past season, even though he still got injured in the playoff game, and his rookie season. He had a season where he potentially could have been the MVP had he gotten healthy, but he wasn't. And his third year where he was pretty much not healthy for most of it. Then you've got Dak Prescott, who was drafted in the 4th round, much lower expectations, came in his rookie year, ended up 13-3, got to the playoffs, bounced by Aaron Rodgers in the 1st round. then you go forward. He currently has a 1-2 playoff record, and you can see all the talent, but it doesn't seem like he's taking advantage of it. This past year, with how ravaged the Eagles were, and all these teams that they should have beat the Cowboys, they didn't, and a lot of it was on Dak Prescott. So I want to ask you, if you had to start a franchise right now, are you taking Carson Wentz or Dak Prescott?
Give me Carson, man. I get not a healthier guy. I mean, Dak is healthy and durable. He hasn't missed a game, but give me the guy that can have an MVP-like season. Give me a guy that can perform when everything else around him is not working for him. I mean, really, when has Carson Wentz had everything perfect around him? I mean, even during the MVP season, Alshon was still hurt. He had Zach Ertz, but if your number one receiver is the tight end, that's not helping you that much. I really think if you gave Carson this Dallas team, we're talking about a different story. So give me Carson over Dak.
Honestly, in terms of that MVP year, if you go back and look at it, his top actual receiver was Nelson Aguilar. That should tell you enough.
Wow.
I'm with you, though. I'm taking Carson. And a lot of it is because I don't think Dak is a bad quarterback. I don't.
No.
I think he is slightly above average. But I do think that he is closer to average than above average because he just doesn't perform up to the expectations that he should be able to. And again, he's a fourth-round pick, so I'm not saying he has these giant expectations. But when you're on, quote, America's team, and you've got all these weapons around you, especially last year. Like, last year was a big year. He bet on himself to be able to play up to the high standards that he put on himself. He was like, I'm going to play for my upcoming contract. And he fell on his face. That team should not have been 8-8. That team should have won the NFC East. They didn't. They lost a bunch of games that they shouldn't have lost. And when it came down to the big showdown, Carson Wentz outperformed him with a team that most of those guys should have been on the freaking practice squad. So, and I kind of always go back to who has the better arm talent? I'm taking Carson Wentz. Who has the better mobility and athleticism? I'm taking Carson Wentz. I still remember that one play, and I believe it was against the Falcons, where he was in the middle of getting sacked, and right before his knee touched the ground, he threw the ball and made a completion for a first down. Like, just those types
that
of
just made
plays.
me angry.
Yeah, same. Those types of plays are things that Carson Wentz is able to do. Now, I will say, sometimes I think Carson Wentz needs to understand the difference between trying to make a play and throwing the ball away. Because I think that's what causes a lot of his injuries. He's trying too hard to make a play, and it also causes a lot of the fumbles he seems to make. He's very turnover prone as much as he is injury prone. I think he needs to work on that. But there's a reason that Carson Wentz was picked second overall in the draft. Like, he has so much talent. And I think we've yet to be able to see it all come together. If you can finally get a fully healthy Carson Wentz and a fully healthy Eagles team, I think the sky is the limit for how far the Eagles can go.
I mean, I really think you could have consistent seasons like that Super Bowl season where they went 13-3. I really think it's a possibility that you can maintain that just as long as that health is there.
Yeah, and I think it's all about staying healthy. And I think, at this point, if you wanted to make the debate over, well, I'm going to take the healthy guy over the non-healthy guy, I understand that. But in terms of pure intangibles, pure ability, I've got to take Wentz.
I honestly couldn't agree with you more. Really, Carson's really made a turnaround in my eyes, to be honest. He passed the eye test for me last year. And before last year, I would have even said that I probably would have even taken Dak, to be honest. He doesn't have the arm talent that he has. But the one thing that Dak did have, he had those intangibles. He had the leadership ability to bring everyone around him, rally them up. But really seeing what Carson has gone through, and after the whole Nick Nick Foles debacle that was, and the locker room seemed divided over them. And there's even a statue of Nick Foles in the locker room. And even though all that has happened, I think last year cemented Carson Wentz as being one of the potential elite quarterback talents that we have in the league right now. Whereas Dak, who I believe is a franchise quarterback, is there for him. I think he's just, like you said, just an average to an above average quarterback, depending on the game. And as we've seen, he has all this talent surrounding him. He has all the options for him. He had one of the best O-lines, and you still couldn't get it done against an Eagles team that had to heavily rely on Carson Wentz. And that's all they had. Give me Carson.
One last thing I want to say about Carson Wentz. This is the dispute that I do have. As much as I've defended Carson Wentz, there are some people that would put him in the same tier at this point. Like, you've got Patrick Mahomes, who is in his own tier at the moment, and then they say Carson Wentz is in that next tier. I don't agree. And there's a few reasons why. One, I think health is a factor you need to put in. Do I think he has all the talent in the world? Sure. But he hasn't put it all on the field yet. And that's a variety of reasons. That's the health of other teammates. That's his own health. But you got to control what you can control. And we haven't seen the full potential of Carson Wentz. And I don't think we can judge based off of, oh, man, this guy has so much potential. Because if we're going off potential, there's a bunch of people in drafts from 2017 that could be Hall of Famers. But potential doesn't mean anything if it doesn't show up on the field. I think he showed a lot this past year. But I don't think he is an elite quarterback just yet. I think he's a very good quarterback. But I don't think you can start saying that he's better than Drew Brees or he's better than, like, I don't know. I don't think you can say that, oh, if Patrick Mahomes is number 1, then Carson Wentz is number 4. Like, no. He's not there yet. Can he get there? Sure. Also, this past year, while, again, there's a ton of injuries, and a lot of people say that I do think Carson Wentz carried that team on his back. But people forget that defense down the stretch played phenomenal. And a lot of those times, especially like against the Cowboys game, it's not like Carson Wentz lit up the Cowboys. It was 17-9. Like, he didn't score 31 points or something. The offense was not playing that well. And again, it's not all on him. I'm just saying that he's not on a Patrick Mahomes type of track right now. He's not. So does he have the potential to be a top 5 quarterback? Sure. I just don't think he is one yet.
I think the potential's there, and I think you could make a legitimate argument that he is. Well, let's take the Super Bowl quarterbacks from this year. So I think you and I agree that he's not on the same level as Patrick Mahomes, right? But would you rather have him or Jimmy Garoppolo?
I'll take Carson Wentz over Jimmy G. Because Jimmy G couldn't hit the broadside of a barn in that Super Bowl when it came down to it.
Okay, then. I would also take Carson over them. But let's look at the other quarterbacks that were in the playoffs last year. Ryan Tannehill.
My boy Ryan Tannehill. Nah, I got to take Carson Wentz.
Would you say Carson over Ryan?
I'd have to take Carson Wentz.
Okay. Would you take him over Lamar Jackson?
No. No, I don't think I
okay.
would. I think that's close. It's really, really close.
That
but
might be where the line might be. I agree.
I mean, Lamar Jackson won an MVP. And I think that's a big factor in what he has been able to accomplish. Because, I mean, currently, like, let's look at it. What has Carson Wentz accomplished right now? He has only been in one playoff game. His playoff stats right now are I think he's 1-5 in terms of his completions. So he hasn't done anything really. I mean, that's me being realistic. Other than this past year when he was able to get the team to the playoffs, he got them there, but then he got hurt. And again, he got hurt, but realistically he hasn't done anything. We're basing a lot off potential. So if I'm going right now, what have you done going forward? And again, I think Lamar Jackson is really good, but I think he needs to improve a lot as a passer. I think it's close, but I'm gonna take Lamar.
Okay. If it was between them two, I want Carson. I get that health is a factor, but running quarterbacks in the league do not last that long. And I know it kind of coincides with Carson because he's not that healthy, but the potential is still better. And I think he has a better arm. He's obviously not as mobile as Lamar, but he's still mobile. Uh, I mean, does almost MVP count? Up until that ACL tear, he was going to be the MVP that season.
I mean, I would have voted him MVP before the ACL tear, but a lot of people were still saying Tom Brady, who and I think was the eventual winner. They had him still as it, so I think it would have depended on how he played down the stretch. But I mean, hey, almost only works in horseshoes and hand grenades, so he didn't get it. He got hurt. Lamar has one and he doesn't.
All right, then what about Carson or Aaron Rodgers?
I mean,
Now, just think about it. This is like right now at this moment.
if I have to win a game right now, I'm taking Rodgers. I think
Okay, all right.
Rodgers, in terms of his ability to throw, I think Rodgers is not necessarily as mobile as he once was, but I think he still is. He's still got the mobility. I think he's still got the arm talent. I think he's a winner. I think he has the playoff experience. So if you're placing me like, okay, you need this one drive in the Super Bowl, here you go. I'm gonna take Aaron Rodgers.
What about Drew Brees?
Okay. This one I'm gonna take Carson Wentz. And the reasoning why is because Drew Brees just does not have the arm talent that he used to. He can't throw the ball downfield. And I think at this day and age in the NFL, that's what you need. You need the ability to throw the ball down the field. Like, you're not going to have. Eventually, people are going to learn that Michael Thomas is only going to run a slant route. So just guard the freaking slant route or the outs. He's not going to throw farther than 20 yards downfield. I think Carson Wentz at this point has the better arm. I think Carson Wentz is more athletic than Drew Brees at this point, and I think a lot of that is due to age. So I think Drew Brees is more accurate, and I think he is more knowledgeable because of his experience. But in terms of true ability to this point, I'll take Carson.
And then I'll just leave off of this one. Last one. Do you want Carson Wentz or Tom Brady?
Oh, boy. I've got it. Oh, man. Okay, see, this is hard because I can't bet against Tom Brady with a final drive to win a Super Bowl. I can't
That
do
is
it.
the first law of the NFL is you never bet against Tom Brady.
I can't bet against Tom Brady. Now, if we're talking like the regular season or like going forward, I'm taking Carson. But if I've got one drive, I can't bet against Tom Brady. I just can't do it.
You know, I'm okay. I'm gonna side with Tom Brady too. It's just the legacy is there, and he's still performing at his current age. Obviously, healthier than Carson Wentz. Uh, yeah, there's really not much else to say right there. Tom Brady is to go, right?
Yeah, and I think both of you and I will agree that Carson Wentz is more athletic. Carson Wentz has a stronger arm at this point. But again, in terms of pure accuracy, I think Tom Brady is one of the smartest quarterbacks ever. And if it comes to play recognition and being able to know when to call the audible, when to make the right read, Tom Brady will do it. And I would have, in a Super Bowl situation, I'd have to take that over the athleticism of Carson Wentz.
All right, then. So that would place him fringe top 5, right?
I mean, I think there's several quarterbacks. Russell Wilson's still up there.
Well, yeah, I think the obvious one will be Russell Wilson. So I wasn't going to do that one.
Yeah.
Like, if I'm being honest, at this current point, and then moving forward, it would be Patrick, it'd be Russell, and I would kind of flip-flop between Carson, Tom, and Aaron Rodgers.
I'd pick Deshaun Watson over Carson
Ooh, okay. I don't
because
think Deshaun quite has the arm talent.
I don't necessarily think he does either. And I think Deshaun has a lot still to learn. But I mean, those Houston Texans teams have not exactly been, you know,
He's had
that
better
great.
tools than Carson.
Has he?
I mean, having one of the best wide receivers in the league in the past 5 years is pretty big help.
I mean, yeah, he's had Hopkins, but I would argue that the Eagles have had a better O line. I think the Eagles have had better running back play. I think the Eagles have had a better defense. Deshaun has been able to get his team to the playoffs multiple times at this point, I believe. So, I mean, I'd probably take Deshaun. I'd take Deshaun over Carson.
Right, but the Texans were winning that division before Deshaun was even there. So nothing's really changed from that. Philly was maybe winning it every other year, right? The division. But Deshaun hasn't had to necessarily drag the Houston to the playoffs. Carson has.
I mean, once he's done it once, and that was still in it. Like, okay, so yes, Carson did drag him, and he does deserve full credit. But the amount of things that had to go right, for as much as went wrong, as much had to go right. I mean, going in, the Cowboys had to absolutely implode for that to even happen. So again, I understand the
Or maybe
argument
they just
either
weren't
way.
that good because they were 8-8 and they couldn't beat a team over 500.
Maybe I think they have better talent than their 8-8 record showed, personally. But again, I can see either way. I would have to take Deshaun though.
Guess we'd have to agree to disagree then.
I mean, I think you can win with either quarterback. I think that's easily.
Oh, yeah.
So to end this episode, I think we should go through our predictions for the NFC East, and I feel like we might have ours a little bit different. So for the bottom of the East, who do you got?
I've got the Redskins going 4-12 and vying for that Trevor Lawrence pick. Or Justin Fields.
You know, it's actually kind of funny. I also have the Redskins at fourth, and I also have them going 4-12.
I don't think it's going to be that much different.
Not that one. How about third?
Third, I have the Giants going 5-11, not too far behind from the Redskins. Good offseason, questionable coach signing, but I think Daniel Jones does have an improvement, and he'll prove to be the future quarterback for the Giants, nonetheless.
So I also have them going 5-11 in third place. Wow. We did not plan to have those the same, everybody, I promise. Here's where I think things might be different. Who do you have going second?
I have the Cowboys going second as a fringe playoff team, and probably will given the extension. I have the Cowboys going 9-7. What about you?
I have the Eagles in second
There
place.
we go.
I have them going 10-6, still making the playoffs as a wild card. I think they're a very talented team. I think they're going to lose some close games, specifically against teams like the Packers. I could see them winning the division for sure. But as of me sitting here right now, I'm going to say 10-6 there in second, which leads me to my first place team, the Cowboys. The way I see it is, I mean, with all the talent, it's got to come together at some point, right? So I feel like this will be the year.
That's the saying of every team ever.
Yes, I know. I know. But I barely have them over the Eagles. I have them at 11-5, just barely squeaking out the division. It could come down to a late game between the two or something. I don't know. But I've got them winning at 11-5.
And speaking of 11-5, that's what I have the Eagles going to.
So we have 3 of our records the same. We almost have all of our records the same. That's crazy.
Yeah, but I mean, is it that much different? Because we both have Philly and Cowboys being those playoff French teams, but the Giants and Redskins just are still waiting to make the right improvements to take them over the edge.
Yeah, this division is definitely going to be one of those where it's very – you got 2 that are really bad and 2 that are pretty good playoff-bound caliber. It'd be interesting to see if it is any more interesting than that, if maybe the Redskins and Giants can compete a bit. I wouldn't be a betting man and bet on it, but you never know. Football's crazy sometimes. I think that'll do it for this episode. Josh, if you would like to tell our audience where they can find us.
Well, let me just repeat that you can find us on Apple Podcasts now. I repeat, Apple Podcasts, the number 1 podcasting platform. We are on it now. So go find us on Apple. If we don't have Apple, you can find us on Spotify, YouTube, and Google under JJ Talks. We also have a Facebook page under JJ Talks, and our Instagram and Twitter is at JJ Talks Pod.
All right. Thank you all for the support so far. Please share it, spread it to your friends, your family. Get our name out there. We appreciate it deeply. We really do.
This means a lot. We're actually coming up on 100 views right now within 2 weeks, so that's pretty great.
Yes, so keep watching. Let us know anything that we can improve on. But thank you so much so far, and we will see you all next time on the next episode